Pregame.com.
We do have Sunday night football this week. It's not going to be the pros. It's going to be a college game. Arkansas State and Kent State. Woo. So in case you don't get enough football on the weekend, you still get a little Sunday night game. I like Ark State in this game. Not a huge bet for me, but I think a little bit more classy than Kent State. And I looked and I compared, both of the conferences, the Sun Belt, Ark State out of the Sun Belt, Kent State out of the MAC. Both have had sporadic success, nothing real indicative. But I think when you look a little more closely, Kent State, they had a couple of good games. They got beat early in the season against Kentucky. I'm sure they'd love to play that game again. They'd probably trounce Kentucky. They went on the road and beat a good Rutgers team and beat them pretty handily that day. Remember, they were 13-point dogs and win the game by 12, and were in charge the whole game. Then they lost to Northern Illinois in the MAC.
That was huge.
Game.
That's the big one.
That was a big game. And Northern Illinois, they played a very tough Florida State team. Got shown pretty much that they not in that class. Arkansas State, they finished on a pretty good roll. Now they went to Oregon and lost. Not terribly though. 57-34. That's not a bad loss at Oregon. Nebraska, they lost at Nebraska, 42-13. Again, not all that bad. Then they lost to Western Kentucky. But if you remember, Western Kentucky was on that roll. They'd covered
every game.
14 or 15 in a row. So Western Kentucky did beat them. Since then, they did not lose. So that's seven straight games. They've been playing very well. Their coach, Gus Malzahn, who made his name pretty much as an assistant at Auburn, has now gone back to Auburn as the head coach. But I think he's still left in place the mechanism for a very good football team. I like a lot of these Southern kids that did not quite make the SEC. I think they have a little something to prove. I think there are a lot of tough kids. I think they go in. I think they win this game 3.5, a little bit on the cheap side. Chuck.
I like this Arkansas State team. I mean, first, I love the quarterback, Applin. I mean, this guy, when he's on, he's on. What really impresses me, if you look at their top three games against UL Lafayette, UL Monroe, and then they finished up the season against Middle Tennessee State. Yeah. Those are like the three other top teams there in the Sun Belt. They didn't just beat those teams.
Hell yeah.
They destroyed those teams.
Yeah.
I mean,
Middle Tennessee had a good year.
Yeah. I mean, that team beat Georgia Tech. They beat them 45-0, shut them out there the last game of the year. This Kent State team, defensively, they're not as good as, the past years, Kent State's had a real good defense. If it wasn't for their offense this year, they might not be in this game. The only thing that scares me, as you mentioned, is the coach. If you look at these bowl games this year, it's been unreal. The teams who have lost their coach have really not fared well. Saying all that, I still like Arkansas State. That's the only caution I put up on the game.
Let me just throw in here, their defensive coordinator will coach Arkansas State. They have a new coach, of course, coming in next season. He will not be involved in this game, though. So, VR.
I'm surprised first primetime Chuck didn't get to cover this game. This is the big one. That's my shocker for this week. But no, bottom line is this. Just reading the market, you have the 9-3 team favored over the team that's 11-2, I believe.
And was ranked 15th in the country before that last
More importantly, this is the Sun Belt we're talking about. And I think the Sun Belt's extremely undervalued because the casual bettor isn't familiar with these teams. And even though the MAC's a small conference when you're talking college football, people know these teams as well. You've seen them year in and year out.
More.
Exactly.
Right.
And Northern Illinois just played in a big. Northern Illinois just played in a big game. I think for Toledo, that was the game they wanted. Obviously, a bowl game is a bowl game, and you're going to get up for it.
For Kent State.
For Kent State, yeah, not Toledo. You wanted that MAC championship. Mm-hmm. They really wanted that game.
It came close.
Exactly. And I think this is a
losing
big
2 overtimes, I think.
Yeah, a big letdown spot for them right here. I like Arkansas State. I think they're going to have a lot of success throwing the football. 8.3 yards per pass attempt. Mm-hmm. I don't think Kent's going to have any answers for that. So I like the favorite in this game.
Just to hit on what you're saying there, VR, and Chuck had mentioned the defense before. They are a little bit loose in the pass defense.
7.3 yards per pass attempt Kent allows.
Yeah,
that's
I think
lot.
Oregon State could capitalize on that. You mentioned the quarterback. I know Malzahn is not there, but still, you've had a year's worth of coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, it's another impressive thing. Sometimes in these conferences, you mentioned the Sun Belt. We look at some of the games. I mean, Lafayette. I know they won by 7 or 8. They kicked that field goal against East Carolina, but they were the much better team against East Carolina. in that game. I felt like they were faster.
Agreed.
And we saw this Arkansas State team manhandle that UL Lafayette team. And, I think that says a little bit right there.
You talked about the Sun Belt. That's a bit of a coming conference.
I agree.
And as the SEC has gotten better, I think there's
the talent pool.
The rising
talent
tide.
pool's a lot better.
Exactly. The rising tide has lifted all boats.
Coming out of there.
Good coaches. I think there's a lot of good kids. They're maybe not quite good enough to go to LSU or Bama, but they are good enough to go to schools like this.
Yeah.
And a lot of those kids develop. And I think you're seeing with good coaching, like Malzahn gave them very good coaching throughout the course of this season. They finished with 7 consecutive victories.
6 covers, too. They're playing well.
Very good, yeah. So you can see that they have improved, and coaching, I think, is a part of that. You get a lot of these kids that are talented but maybe need to be developed. I think that's exactly what happened with Arkansas State. I like Arkansas State.
I like it.
We've talked about it. Let's go ahead and make it official. I like Arkansas State -3.5 over Kent State. I think Kent State comes into this game maybe not with the utmost motivation. They really wanted to win a MAC championship. They lost in 2 overtimes to Northern Illinois. They would have wound up in the BCS game rather than Northern Illinois. That didn't happen. Instead, you have an Arkansas State team, though, and I know they have lost their coach. I think they'll be able to overcome that. I think they are a very quality team and playing great ball the last couple of months of the season. I think they handle a Kent State team on Sunday night. So looking forward to that one.
Should be fun.
Should be a fun game.
Yeah,
it should be.
I like their offense, Arkansas State.
Should be a good one.
Okay, coming up next, we are going to hear from VR.
NFL, baby. NFL.
They still playing that NFL?
Yeah, they still got a couple games left.
Okay, we're going to talk to VR is going to talk to us about the Bengals and the Texans. This is going to be a good one. So
give you a winner. Uh-oh.